Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode today of That's Interesting. We are going to be talking once again for the second time here in this season. Yes, it's kind of gotten to me. The show Outer Banks. Yes, and back with us for the second episode is Tatum Walsh, the expert in all things TV show and Netflix. Tatum, thank you so much for joining us once again. First, I just want to ask, did you expect that we'd be doing a second episode? Did you think that when we...
I knew it. I knew it in my brain.
Why do you say that?
Because it's a good show, and you're not going to not finish a good show.
Yeah, and that includes not finishing doing a podcast about it, I guess. So, first we should start, I guess, with the recap. So we talked about episode 1. Last episode was all about episode 1. And if you remember that, I'm not going to explain what happens, but we start here with episode 2, with John B. being extremely convinced that his father is still alive. And he decides after waiting 9 full months that now is the best time to enter his father's office, strangely enough. And there's a lot of things that kind of like, I think the theme of the show is like a lot of things that, if you look back on it, I guess are weird, but just like they kind of flow well in the show. Like, it's like, are you telling me he had an office full of clues? And we just like, we just started to get into it now. But anyway, just as the gang makes this big discovery, a pair of bad guys drive up to the house. And, this is a really kind of crazy, because did they end up being hired by Ward? By the way, spoilers here, obviously. Did they end up being hired, do you think, by Ward? Was that the implication there at the end?
I don't know. I mean, I think Ward has a lot of people working for him, but I don't think those guys were working for him, because the shipwreck, the merchant, is like famous, and there was tons of people there, and like the lady said, like, I can't tell you about it. People are gonna come looking for you, and Ward said, like, getting the gold is the easy part, but keeping it is the hard part. You know?
Yeah, so we'll talk about Big Daddy Ward a little bit later on in the show. But JJ, and another thing about the show is just like the decisions that are made are just really kind of illogical, and it's just like, what are you doing? Like, what? Like, it just turn yourself in, and it's like it's just so chaotic, and that it just eventually takes things from 0 to 100. So JJ goes into with everybody else into the chicken coop, where JJ does literally strangles the rooster in the chicken coop, and the bad guys basically take all the evidence from John B.'s dad's office that they visited in the house with the blueprints of the ship and everything. John B. decides that Redfield is a clue that refers to the Redfield Lighthouse, where a weirdo lighthouse keeper says his view has been the same for 30 years, except it changed 2 days ago with the storm. And while the Royal Merchant experts believe the boat was pushed out to sea on the south end of the eye of the hurricane, he believes it was on the north end. It was actually pushed closer to the shore. So that's kind of the first original kind of clue. Then the mood changes for some reason, and I don't get... This is another part that I don't get. Like, why did he attack the lighthouse guy? He just starts to attack the lighthouse guy. It's like, give me this. And John B. kind of like goes insane for the treasure, I guess you could say.
Yeah, he attacks him because, like, I guess he thinks it's a chance going out the window, and he knows he probably thought he only had one chance to, like, find this information. So, he's John B., and he's going to go for the violent option.
Yeah. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. But anyway, so then we have Sheriff Peterkin coming by. One of my probably one of my favorite characters in this entire she always likes to lecture kids about like how she can get them out of the law with a little bit of tit for tat, but you got to do the tat a little bit better. But yeah, she knows that he has the compass. She knows he took it from the wreck, and she's going to need it back as evidence, or she's going to charge him. But he then refuses to catch it. Early in the morning, Sarah catches John B. sneaking onto her dad's boat to return the scuba equipment that he borrowed, quote unquote, to go down diving for the wreck where he found the compass. And while she promises to keep it a secret, Topper finds out through literally the leakiest sieve of a human being, the younger sister, Wheezy, and he tells Ward about it, and he's like, excuse me, I think you're going to have to take a little bit of a look at him. It's just like, oh, shut up. Like, has Has anyone ever that you know pulled up having fake blonde hair, frosted tips, whatever?
Oh, no. No.
It's just like, especially if you're coming in, like, unless you're, like, the really bad look is, I'll tell you, pink polo shirt and frosted tips and Bermuda shorts. Oh!
Yeah.
Like, that's just low stuff. So, Ward confronts John B., fires him after he confesses. It's a violation of the trust. It's the principle of the thing, John B., as he says. John B. sees Sarah as he's leaving, and he tells her that he got fired because of her, but he really says it close to her face, so you know that there is some kind of chemistry happening there. It was a great point there. Then he leaves by running down the street with his one button on his shirt buttoned. This is a big theme. Why in the world? I really don't get that. Why does no one ever like call him out about that? Like, he has one button on his shirt. What a thirst trap.
Oh, is it right at the bottom? Right? Is it at the
No,
bottom?
it's like 3/4 of the way down.
Oh yeah.
And he's walking out like, woo.
Yeah, it takes that like huge run home, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of running. There's a lot of running in the show. That's for sure. So yeah, Sheriff Peterkin shows up and saves the day. After some those same bad guys who shot at him in the first episode come back, Sheriff Peterkin shows up and saves the day, telling him that it would be a lot safer to give her the compass than anybody else. So then he does, and she's probably right, but that probably won't stop the bad guys from continuing to hunt them down. Yeah, so he kind of has an epiphany as he's cleaning out the remaining contents of his dad's office the bad guys didn't see fit to take. And it's the name, he finds a dad, like, family tree of the Rutledge family, and it's Olivia Rutledge that he finds out. John B. takes the gang to a graveyard to say that his great-great-great-great-grandmother, whatever, Olivia was her maiden name, and if nighttime really in a deserted graveyard was not creepy enough, a snake pokes his head out of the crypt. They're trying to break it in, which is kind of weird. And then there's kind of some foreshadowing, some drama as they leave, and Pope loses pants on the fence, and you think it's the bad guys coming after them, but it's just these two prison guards who are like, these kids, man, like, oh my god. Yeah. So the thing that they found is that they find this FedEx envelope that said "For Bird" on the front. That in the crypt where they had Olivia's body was buried. But before they can open it, the bad guys show up and the gang statters, as we told you about. And yeah, so what it's in there is a mini cassette recorder and a map with an X marks the spot. And yeah, what was your kind of take on this? You know, like, was it a little bit like really like whoa, or were you like, this is a little too easy?
It wasn't easy. I mean, you need to look through all of the files and then lead him to this like huge like graveyard crypt thing. I mean, I guess it wasn't hard, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. I think that's all right, I guess. But yeah, it is very interesting because the tape recorder revisits John recording a final message to his son, Big John, as they call him, recording on what he says on the cassette, just about where the wreck probably was, and loading the gun John B. and JJ found in the safe. So wait, that was the same gun, is what you're telling me? Like that?
Which gun?
The gun that they have that that they found in the safe. So the safe was not who's the safe in the first episode? Whose stuff was that?
Scooters.
But then they say it's the same gun. All right.
What did they say?
We'll figure it out later. We got to get through this recap here. So back in the present day, the gang decides that they want to do what they want to do with the millions they're about to get, and Pope wants to pay for college and textbooks. Key wants to make a double album. JJ wants to buy a mansion, and John B wants to quote unquote go full kook. And they sneak into the Rich Beach Club to use their internet, and power obviously is still up, but not at the Rich People Club. They discovered that those coordinates from Big John are only 900 feet deep, and if they get to it, if they want to get to it, they have to go to an underwater drone They know one in the impound lot somewhere. There's something in some impound lot. And so they concoct this scheme to break in. Meanwhile, while Sarah and Topper are getting drunk at some sort of school-sanctioned beach cleanup that was very weird, we meet a new character comes into the fray. If you thought Sarah was dumb, wait till you get a hold of the eldest brother, Rafe. So, what was your first impression when you saw Rafe come on the screen?
I thought he was an unintelligent rich boy who was probably going to stay at his dad's house forever.
Yeah, well, maybe not, right? So, as we see, he is pretty much trying to tell his son to do some things, and he's like, the Pogue that I just fired is more reliable than you, even though he stole something from me. Proving him right, the son, whose name is Rafe, as we just discussed, goes to a drug dealer's house and asks for credit because he needs to make some cash quickly.
Yeah, because he lost the cash buying a bike.
Yeah, so he bought a bike and he says, "I'll give you collateral for the bike, bro." And then Barry, who's kind of a weird character, is like, "Yeah, man, I'm talking about that bike. You better give me my money, country club." Yeah, so definitely continuing the history of white drug dealers talking like black people. But so the kook party later, Topper jumps off a roof into a pool while holding Sarah in his arms. And for some reason, despite the fact that she didn't want to, she smiles at him and then she's like, "We're going all the way tonight, baby." But then she changes her mind. What?
She's like, "You pushed me to my limits."
Yeah, and then I didn't get that whole story. I was just kind of tuning it out when she was like complaining. She's like, so when they're about to go all the way, she's like, and this is kind of a common theme. She's like, "When we get to this point in the relationship, I normally bail."
Oh yeah, that was so cringy. She's like, yeah. "I normally bail. Can't do anything about it."
Yeah, and it's just like that's not a normal. Really, I don't think it's a normal way to behave. But you could probably imagine a lot of like younger 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old people being like, "I totally identify with that. That is like so relatable." Oh my gosh. So Topper's like, he's got a case of the blue balls, and Topper storms off to go do coke with his older brother, Rafe, and is selling to other rich kids. Sarah goes home and drunkenly tells her little sister that she did not end up sleeping with Topper because it didn't feel right, but she's not sure why it didn't feel right. Yeah, but maybe because she just screamed off of a roof against her will, which is very awkward. So, meanwhile, the Poe group goes to the Key's dad's restaurant for food, and John B and Key dance while others look on. But there's a lot of interesting chemistry here. Eyebrow raising. The next morning, Sarah visits John B to tell him that she did not rat him out to her dad and get him fired, and gives him some skinny pop because she knows it's his favorite. Since that was really random.
Did that happen? Really?
Yeah, that just happened. I'm reading off a list here. Refinery 29.
I remember that.
I do remember. I remember seeing the skinny pop and being like,
"Oh yeah, she did have a
that's
bag
disgusting."
in her hand.
Because skinny pop is the worst snack,
calorie free. It's for
ever.
Dancers, man.
Yeah. It's like dancers they take a little plastic bag. They take a little plastic bag. They go in the mom's Mercedes and be like, "Mommy, can I have my skinny pop now, please?" And it's just it's like the food of dancers. That and Cheerios. Normal Cheerios. That's the same. They're just awful snacks. Yeah. The only kind of snacks that you'll find at Whole Foods. My least favorite grocery store. Anyway, yeah, so the Aqua drone the gang stole works, but there is some bad news. Bro besties Topper and Rafe jump Pope while he's delivering groceries on the golf course and steal the beer while he was carrying. And it was really... This was kind of a scene where I was just like, wow. This is a scene where
audacity. Honestly.
Yeah.
Smacked him over the back with a golf club. That hurts.
Yeah, it was really kind of perfect because they kind of beat him up. It was a really, really intense scene. I was like, this is just, my blood was boiling, my heart was beating fast. I was just like, This is just absolutely outrageous. There's kind of an element of like cake